First and foremost, we're going to be focusing on a wildfire forecast to the best of our ability, what experts are forecasting this summer and fall for wildfire season. We're going to be outlining the massive investment that the state has made on wildfire response, vastly expanding the number of firefighters, fire trucks, airplanes, and of course, helicopters. And our expert panelists tonight, they're going to be outlining the most effective steps that you, your loved ones can take to protect your home, your property, and of course, our community during this upcoming wildfire season. I want to be honest. So many counties throughout Northern California have been from hell and back during these challenging wildfires. And candidly, the alarm couldn't be louder. Our new reality in this era of mega fires is here to stay. 14 of the 20 largest wildfires have all happened right here in the Golden State in the last decade. And that's why we're working day and night to dramatically expand resources. They're going to help make our communities more wildfire safe. First and foremost, we're working tirelessly to be able to fix the CAL FIRE firefighter shortage. In the last 8 years, CAL FIRE has expanded its ranks from 6,700 firefighters and personnel to over 11,300 coming into this fire season. And in a recent agreement, an additional 1,000 CAL FIRE firefighters will be hired over the next few years. We know that we've made progress, but we also know there's much more work to come in this category. Over 300,000 acres of California forest land have been treated to make the acreage more fire safe and resilient. Approximately 500 million. This is a big announcement from the federal government. Approximately 500 million will be coming to the Golden State due to President Biden's action to reduce wildfire activity on U.S. Forest Service land here in California. And here's why this investment is so significant. Number one, we haven't seen a whole lot of money, if I could be honest, coming from the federal government to be able to assist us, to be able to remove dead and dying trees and create community wildfire breaks. Now we're going to see this $500 million over the next 5 years. And why this is so important, 57% of all of our forest land across California owned and managed by the federal government. We are also greatly expanding the number of new firefighting planes and helicopters. We've purchased 12 brand new night fighting Black Hawk helicopters. We've secured 7 new C-130 cargo planes from the United States Coast Guard that will be outfitted with bomber retardant bellies to be able to be the largest firefighting planes in the skies. Millions have been invested to be able to deploy wildfire detection cameras in almost every community in the state. And we've treated 125,000 acres of wildlands with prescribed burning. We know that we could do much better. And I promise you're going to see more progress in the years to come. But even with all this progress, there's a lot more work ahead. We're going to continue to advance bold solutions, confront this pressing challenges, and we won't rest till we get the job done. And that's why we're gathering with you tonight. Again, thank you so much for taking time to be with us. We're going to provide you the facts. We're going to get you prepared for wildfire season and to make sure that you and your family have the most up-to-date and accurate information to get prepared for wildfire season. Now, with us tonight, we have CAL FIRE Northern Assistant Region Chief Jake Hess, and of course, Marin County Fire Chief Jason Weber. And once we hear from this all-star panel, we're going to turn it over to each and every one of you. Over 930 folks, 932, I've just been told, 932 folks from all corners of Northern California are tuning in tonight. Good evening. We're so happy that you're here. We have had literally hundreds of questions submitted by folks who are watching tonight. This is our stack of questions. I promise you we're going to get to as many questions as possible. And we're going to be taking your questions live tonight. Join the conversation. If you'd like to be able to provide a question, a comment, a concern, a criticism for myself or for our panelists, email us, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Email us live your questions. We're going to get to them here in just a moment. Senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. If you're watching via Facebook tonight, thank you so much. You can simply drop your question or comment into the chat, and we'll get right to you here in just a few moments. All right, let's get into it. We're now going to turn our town hall over to Jake Hess. He is the CAL FIRE Northern Assistant Region Chief, oversees all of Northern California for CAL FIRE. We're grateful for his dedication. He's going to be talking about his expectations, CAL FIRE's expectations for this upcoming fire season. He's going to talk about how CAL FIRE's response has changed over this past decade, what type of fire prevention work is being done in California, what are the most effective fire prevention strategies that you can deploy. And he's going to be talking about those fire prevention grants that CAL FIRE has. The legislature, the governor has provided CAL FIRE with literally hundreds of millions of dollars over the last few years to be able to grant out to communities to make them more wildfire safe. He's going to be talking how you can apply for those grants. Chief Hess, it's really good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. You have 7 minutes, sir, and we'll give the floor to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Senator. And it's always great chatting with you. And your command of this information is mind-boggling. Really, really great chatting with you and how understanding the true climate issue that we've been dealing with. So today I want to talk a little bit about our wildfire year, 2023. So we have been experiencing 12 atmospheric rivers this winter. I have a lot of folks ask us, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for the fire service? What does that mean for our Mediterranean climate? Even though we've experienced 12 atmospheric rivers, we have still are experiencing drought or near drought conditions in many counties in California and in particularly in Northern California. The robust grass crop that we're dealing with right now has created a significant fuel loading for us, Senator, for this coming fire year is what we're calling it. We've actually run fire simulations with our wildfire analyst program, Techno Silva, and we've actually found that right now, using the same date today as last year on the same topography in the same location, we're able to measure in the landscape what would a potential fire look like today. And unfortunately, with the increased grass crop, we are seeing right now in our simulations that fires are actually looking like they have more energy due to the herbaceous fuel loading that is receptive and is going to be very receptive. The other important piece is we have also noticed that there has been widespread storm damage on live vegetation at the 1,500 to 2,500 foot level. So coupled with that is we're also seeing that we're tracking the science behind accelerated snow melt off associated with very large fire scars where you've lost shading from tree canopies that have been absolutely devastated by large fires, including like the Dixie Fire, 1 million acres, the Caldor Fire, and those things. Let's talk a little bit about resource change. What are some of the things that we've looked at over the last 10 years that have changed to us? Senator, you hit it on the head. With your support, with support partners from the legislation, we have been able to bolster our response capabilities since 2014. You hit it on the head. Engines, hand crews, aircraft, including year-round engines that you've been able to secure for us. That we've been focusing on fuel reduction efforts year-round associated with some of those increased engines and some of our increased staffing associated with those engines. We have also added fire detection and fire modeling, which is incredibly important to us, so that we can help predict fire growth and aid in these evacuation decisions and some of our decision points. We have found that over the last few years, and my friend and partner here, Jason Weber, would agree with me, we are starting to evacuate people more often and earlier. And we will say that probably throughout this evening, when we will evacuate people more often and earlier on our terms, not the fire's terms. The reason for this, what we've found over the last few years, is we have no room for error. And so we're being very diligent when it comes to these evacuation decision points. The other piece I would like to chat about this evening is California's Wildfire Forest Resilience Action Plan. Basically, our fuel reduction strategy. It's really important for your constituents to hear from us. Essentially, we have, you indicated that there's money for grants in the tunes of millions of dollars. And if you boil it down, this California Wildfire Forest Resilient Action Plan has 3 concentric circles. And it doesn't matter what patch you have on your shoulder. It doesn't matter if you're a non-governmental agency, you're a fire safe council, or you're a road association. Everybody holds a piece to this puzzle. And within the middle of these concentric circles is a fire adapted communities. There are resources associated and available for these fire adapted communities to get home hardening. The next circle out is a landscape treatment, fuel reduction. This is something that CAL FIRE has been very laser focused on doing, fuel reductions, partnering with these non-governmental agencies and fire safe councils. And then the last circle is the forest health, prescribed fire, and long-term recovery. So I wanted to give kind of this upper view of all of us have to be tethered to have this long-term strategy in order for us to be efficient. What we're wanting to avoid is duplicating efforts. And so this has really been a great plan for us to be able to put things into a community wildfire protection plan, reach out to the communities and engage in your needs so that we can help you with hardening evacuation routes, things like that. Grants. I want to talk a little bit about grants. We are pointing people towards the fire safe councils, community groups, the CWPP, Community Wildfire Protection Plan. We also, it's very important, and I can share links with you, Senator, so that your staff can get these links out to your constituents. We have regional grant representatives that are happy to assist your constituents with questions and how to get them tied into some of these California Climate Investment Grant opportunities. I do want to reiterate that all of us have a piece of this puzzle. As a Californian, living in a Mediterranean climate, we live with fire. It's part of our life as we live in California. So being ready for wildfire is, please go to readyforwildfire.org and look at some of the mountain of information that is on that site. It's ready, set, and go. And on that site, Senator talks about defensible space, home hardening, creating an evacuation action plan, preparing for your family vacation plan, evacuate early piece. You talked a little bit about our staffing. I want to give just a quick update. Our staffing for Northern Region, we are at 1 engine per battalion right now, which is 66. On June 5th, we'll be going up to 133 engines. And on June 19th, we will have 202 fire engines in Northern California alone. We were very successful with our partners in our CAL FIRE programs, and with your support to receive 6 additional hand crews in our augmentation and 400 additional firefighters spread out the state to be able to bolster our response and help with that fuel reduction piece. I also want to reiterate, we've had some exclusive use helicopters, Senator. As you know, we do have one in Sonoma and Napa. Those will be coming, but we do have an exclusive use agreement for 18 helicopters throughout the state of California, 15 type 1s, 3 type 3s, as well as fixed wing exclusive use, which are 3 large air tankers. So thank you for this opportunity to speak with you, and I really look forward to chatting with your constituents.
Thank you so much, Chief Hess. That's Chief Hess, CAL FIRE Northern Assistant Region Chief. And look, really grateful, Chief, for the detail, diving into the weeds. I think it's really important. And I think the other piece is, in addition to staffing up CAL FIRE to be able to fix that CAL FIRE firefighter shortage, we also have invested tens of millions of dollars to be able to staff up the California Conservation Corps, to be able to advance wildfire prevention work, removing dead and dying trees, creating wildfire fuel breaks. We have invested millions with the California National Guard, who have now become directly engaged in wildfire response. This is an all hands on deck effort each and every year. It's not going to change. We're very focused on this, and you're only going to see enhanced improvements. I want to remind you how you can ask questions tonight. We really want to hear from you. That's the most important part of tonight. Simply email us, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. Email your questions. We're going to be taking them live tonight. We're so happy you're with us. Senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. We're at 1,043 folks. 1,043 folks joining us tonight from every corner of Northern California, and we're going to now turn it over to the Marin County Fire Chief. His name is Jason Weber. He has dedicated his life to the fire service, dedicated his life to protecting our communities. Chief Weber is going to be focusing on 3 or 4 main areas. Number one, how has fire behavior changed over the last decade? What are the trends that he's seeing in the field? How can communities become better prepared? What are the best tools to be able to protect our homes and neighborhoods from the risk of wildfire? And he's also going to be focusing on what should residents be doing to prepare themselves for wildfire season. Chief Weber, good evening, sir. It is so good to see you. The floor is yours. You have 7 minutes, and we'll get right into questions. Thank you so much, Chief, for joining us.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for your continued leadership. We wouldn't be in the position we're at today, either, CAL FIRE, our state fire agency, or the local agencies, Marin being a contract county, without your leadership. You've been at the center of all of this legislation, and it's making a big difference on the ground. The number of firefighters, the amount of equipment we have, it really is drastically changed from 10 years ago, and appreciate your support. What is the fire season doing? It's getting longer, it's getting hotter, it's getting drier. We know our climate's changing. The swings are greater than they've ever been. Chief Hess talked a lot about, atmospheric rivers, followed by, now vegetation that at least, in the computer modeling systems has the potential to really drive things to a level that certainly we don't want to see. So we're going to talk a little bit about what you can do to help prepare. We're doing a lot from the state and local government agency side on fire protection, but we need your support. We can't do this alone. What's happening? Our fire seasons are 70 days longer on average than they were in the 1970s. That means the grasses are drying earlier. Our heavier fuels, our coastal chaparral for all of us on the coast here, they're hitting critical stages earlier than they ever have. And of course, we know we get into that fall weather pattern where we start to see more extreme weather events like these wind events, coupled with drier fuels. I remember when I started 28 years ago, almost 30 years ago, you could set your clock to being laid off as a seasonal firefighter by October 31st. That's no longer the case. Our seasonal firefighters are engaged, as Chief Hess said, really year round. What does that do for all of us? What we found with all of these catastrophic fires across the North Bay, the entire state really, is we have to do a better job preparing our homes, preparing our communities, and that includes all of us, right? We've increased the amount of capabilities we have in the fire service to respond, but we've got to put those firefighters in front of your house. We need your help. 1 is to protect you, help you get out safer. 2, do us a favor and protect our firefighters. They need a little bit more space around that house to be able to defend it. So what does that mean? Our top concerns. My top concern is getting residents to engage and listen and participate. So first, thank all of you for being on here tonight. You're the champions. You're the ones that have to go out and knock on your neighbor's door, share some information, a couple tidbits tonight, what you learned. Let's create that pattern. Just like wildfire, this information can spread, and it's critically important that we do that. creating defensible space around your home. So what is community preparation? And Chief Hess talked a little bit about the circles and what does that mean? So where we need this partnership is from all of you around the house. So that first house out piece, right? That 0 to 5 feet we know is the absolute most critical. That's wooden fences connected to the house that create a bridge for fire to travel and get up into the eave and lose a house. We start to get then house to house ignition. You've got bark or other combustible materials around your home that need to be cleared away. These are all little things you can do with not a whole lot of energy or a whole lot of cost that have profound impacts, not just on you, but your neighbors. And we start to do this on a neighborhood scale. You can imagine the multiplying of one home becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, 20 becomes 100. All of a sudden, we're really changing the landscape in this wildland urban interface, which is what we have to do in order to be more fire adaptive. We can't look at it as we live in California, we don't want fire. Fire was a part of this landscape long before any of us were here. What we have to do is build an environment that's now adaptive to fire. So this is something that's going to take a change in mindset. It's going to take a change in the way we look at landscape. We all appreciate the beauty of having hedges right up against the front of the house or whatever it is, your favorite plant. We need to take that away, at least get it 5 feet off of the house. Then we need to make sure the dead and down material within it is removed. All of those actions are going to help. Each one of you has a fire safe council in your counties. I encourage you to visit that. If you need more information, Fire Safe Marin is a resource for all of us up and down the state of California, especially in the Senator's District. But the best tool here is preparedness. So create defensible space around your home. Sign up for local alert systems. Each one of your counties has a local alert system. It's not Nixle. It's actually an alert system. And many of you have gone to cellular phones instead of home phones. You need to register those so you're making sure that you're getting the phone call. That's the early notification. When Chief Hess talked about ready, set, go, this is part of the preparation. Set is when you hear the alarm or the alert, and then obviously you go. Have an evacuation plan. Have a go bag. Visit ready.gov. It's a website that'll talk to you about what you need. And this is applicable whether it's preparing for an earthquake, a fire, or a flood, having that go bag ready and being prepared to leave. And then, of course, I think one of the most important pieces, helping those that need assistance. We're an aging community. When you look at the fatalities on these fires and injuries, many of them, unfortunately, are our seniors that are living in the community that, not like our teenage kids that sleep with their cell phone next to their head. They didn't get the alert. They didn't get the warning. They didn't wake up. It's incumbent upon all of us to know your neighbor. Make sure that you have a plan as a neighborhood to get out, and make sure if it's Mrs. Smith and she's 85 years old, that at least two of you are checking to make sure she's on the road with one of you and you've communicated that to the other neighbors. And our access and functional need community. Let's make sure that we're paying attention to those. This really is about going back to the basics and knowing your neighbors. We got questions about empty lots. That's a tricky one, but work with your local fire agency to see what local codes or amendments they have that you can enforce defensible space onto the other property from your house to make sure both are defendable. But start with looking at your own house. We get a lot of complaints looking at the neighbors, and we often have to remind people they've got a little work yet to do. Construction in the WUI. We're stretched in California, and especially in the North Bay. We need more housing stock to accommodate everybody in our community, and that means there's some trade-offs. Remember, these new construction areas are being built to the WUI compliance. We're looking at evacuation as part of that planning piece. We're working on that. But the best thing you can do, again, to keep you and your neighbors safe with any new developments is make sure your defensible space is where it's supposed to be.
About 30 seconds, Chief.
Okay, and I was just going to wrap it up. And just in wrapping it up, say, we gave you quite a few websites tonight, but there's a lot of information out there on there. There's ways to do this in ecologically sound principles as you apply those to, your own yard, but go beyond into creating a landscape that can tolerate fire, become an adapted fire community, join with your neighbors, get behind the effort. We're all in this together, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. That's Jason Weber, the fire chief for Marin County. We're also joined by Chief Hess, CAL FIRE Northern Assistant Region Chief, oversees Northern California for the great women and men of CAL FIRE. We're going to get right to your questions, and we literally have hundreds of questions here tonight. So let's get right into it. And thank you all for joining us. I want to say thank you to Cindy. I want to say thank you to Josh, who are ASL interpreters tonight. They're doing a fantastic job as well. It's so nice to see you, Cindy and Josh. All right, so let's get right to it. So D. Roble writes in, we're going to go to Chief Hess. What exactly does, quote, treating forests mean with regard to protecting forests from wildfires, cutting them down, taking out young saplings and seedlings? How would you describe that, Chief Hess? I would describe it as removal of dead and dying trees within just the Sierra and the coastal range. We have about 120 million dead and dying trees due to the drought, bark beetle, et cetera. Removing dead and dying trees, doing some thinning, wildfire fuel breaks. But let's go to the expert, Chief Hess, on treating forests.
Senator, you hit it on the head. We, over the years, if you look at old photographs of even the Sierra, there was fire in the landscape in the late 1800s. Over the decades and decades of suppressing every single fire, we have seen this increase in forest to where we are now looking at forests and we have a different view of what we feel as though is a healthy forest. They're choked out, you can't see through them. So we are doing exactly what you said. We're identifying dead and down trees. We're actually introducing fire back into the landscape to clean up some of the dead and dying material. We are not looking at removing all the material. We have that question come to us a lot. Are we just clear cutting and removing all this material? That is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a shaded style fuel break where you still have a canopy of trees that are actually creating shade over top of the decadent brush and very flammable fuels are now being shaded by this canopy. So you will see where we'll limb up trees so as fire creeps up into the trees, we're eliminating that opportunity for the fire to get off the ground up into the canopy and up into the crowns of the trees. So if you picture a park-like setting where you have trees all over the place, however, we've removed dead and dying fuel. In some cases, we've introduced fire back into the ecosystem, where quite frankly, some of these trees are even dependent on fire propagation for their seeds, like a knobcone pine situation.
I appreciate that, Chief. No, I'm very grateful. That's perfect in regards to the definition of treating. And you're going to see much more of that. About 325,000 acres over the last few years have been, quote, treated. Now there are 125,000 treated with prescribed burns. More to come on that. Really appreciate Chief Hess. I want to go to stick with Chief Hess here. Susie writes in quickly, Chief Hess, on this one. What are the changes to residential burn permits in 2023, 2024? Chief Hess, quickly on Susie's question.
Yeah, so there is a new program that we have, and we're still it's still so early that we're engaged with CAL FIRE's broken up into 21 units. So we're engaged as late as about an hour ago, working on these burn permits so that they are in alignment with the individual counties associated with air pollution control boards. But there is an online site that, once again, I have that link to share with you and your constituents, to where they can go on and actually identify and receive a burn permit. There are some counties that don't allow people to actually do any backyard burns, but for the counties that allow that, there is a new program now that it's all online, and they are able to identify which day, and it has all of the rules of engagement, so to speak, with the individual burn permit. Once again, there is an air pollution control piece that is a second to the CAL FIRE burn permit. It's in conjunction with that. You still have, it doesn't negate the air pollution control permit.
Thank you so much, Chief Hess. We are talking at our wildfire prevention and response town hall, getting you and your family prepared for wildfire season this coming summer and fall. We're now going to go to Jason Weber. He is Marin County's fire chief, but he has literally decades of experience across the North Bay and North Coast. So he's really speaking for fire leaders up and down the California North Coast. Chief Vesta writes in, local fire departments and CAL FIRE run chipper programs that leave chip on the property. How is this okay when bark mulch is so dangerous? Chief Weber, 60 seconds, please.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great question. So when you take a dead or dying vegetation and it's in an aerial platform, if you will, so whether that be brush or what we like to call ladder fuels, so fuels that take you from the grass to brush to a tree, which ultimately puts the fire up in the canopy and is problematic, picks up the wind and can spread more dramatically. So taking that material and chipping it and putting it down on the ground does a couple things. One, it may be ecologically more sound to leave that material there and let it get back into the soil and regenerate. Two, that we're not putting it next to the house. So when we talk about defensible space in that 0 to 5 feet, we don't want you to put the mulch back there in the house that's flammable. But if you're 50 to 75, 100 feet from the house, it's spread out. It's not going to sit in a pile where it can self-combust on one of those cold mornings when we see piles smoking. Generally, that is an acceptable practice. And what you're doing is you're taking that ladder fuel that has plenty of air around it to burn, and you're taking it down into little chips on the ground that don't really sustain considerable combustion, certainly don't propagate spread.
Chief Weber, we're going to stick on this issue. We've had a few questions, so we're going to go with Keith Reinhardt's question that is similar, but on a different material. What good does it to mow down weeds if the fuel is just left on the ground drying, for example, the weeds? And does that really work? So we talked about wood chips with Vesta. Let's go to Keith's comment and question about mowing or weed whacking and leaving that material on the ground. That will slow a fire, correct, coming towards a home. Chief Weber.
Absolutely. And I can remember some fires where you see fire just sheeting across the grass, kind of with the wind, as you can imagine, and traveling at pretty significant rates of spread. Grass actually has a lot of times higher rates of spread than our heavier fuels. But when it's mowed and laid down like that, you're losing that continuity of fuel like you had when it's standing up, with the wind on it or whatever else, and preheating the fuel next to it, which is what causes that kind of rapid spread. So when you lay all that material down on the ground, again, it's not as susceptible to rapid spread. It may be a source for embers to ignite. So if you have the capabilities, and certainly immediately around the house, that first 50 feet, rake that material up, that's better. But I also want people to think about, ecologically sound practices. And when they talk about, denuding the landscape around the house, we don't want that. That causes soil erosion, can cause other problems down the road that are problematic on the backside in this Mediterranean climate that Chief Hess talked about when it rains like holy hell all winter long. So we really do want to find that balance, and we want to be a resource for you. All of us have inspectors that will go out and will talk to you about what's the best prescription for your home. We don't want to be punitive. We want to be educational. We want to work with you. So I'd encourage you to reach out to your local fire agency, have them come out and take a look at your property.
Chief Weber, he's fire chief in the county of Marin. We're now going to go to Chief Hess. He oversees Northern California for CAL FIRE. Chief Hess, Ed writes in Santa Rosa, are we going to have planes flying around again like last year to get ahead of knowing where fires are starting and getting the jump on extinguishing them before they get out of control? So I think, Chief Hess, on this issue, talk about spotter planes, how you are identifying fires before they get too hot and fast. Should also talk about those wildfire cameras. And then, Chief, CAL FIRE has a philosophy in trying to keep fires 10 acres or less. Take it away, Chief Hess, on your approach. You're on mute, Chief Hess.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, so I mentioned it earlier. We have contracted with exclusive use helicopters. We have type 1s at Napa and at Sonoma, as well as we have the 2 S2T tankers that CAL FIRE owns and operates, and an air tactical group supervisor out of the Sonoma Air Attack Base. So what do those do for us? You are correct. We have an objective to keep 90% of our fires at 10 acres or less. On an initial attack incident, those aircraft are being dispatched to suppress those fires. That our air fleet does an amazing job in checking up, or what we call stopping, or the forward progress of that fire, because the aircraft can get to locations obviously very quickly, but we need to have ground resources actually come in behind them. That's engines, that's dozers. So the aircraft isn't going to just put out a fire. It is going to be part of a whole component of a fire response, or a weight of response, as we're calling it, with aircraft, with dozers, and with hand crews. So the aircraft is key, but it's not a magic bullet for us to just, if we have more, we're putting out all the fires. It is a component to really understand the ground resources. And I can't reiterate that again, the hand crews and the dozers and the engines really have to be there to back up any type of retardant drop or any type of water drop on a fire. And we have, like I said, Napa and Sonoma have 2 Type 1 helicopters, as well as our fixed wing aircraft.
Yeah, it's here in the North Bay and North Coast, we're really lucky, right? You have out of Boggs and Lake County, you have a brand new Black Hawk helicopter. It can get to Mendocino, Sonoma in about 15 minutes, depending on where you're at, down to Marin as well. We have airplanes in Sonoma, helicopters in Sonoma. We got airplanes at the Ukiah Airport as well, and hundreds of additional firefighters between Marin, Sonoma, Lake, Mendocino, and the Humboldt Del Norte unit. Literally hundreds of additional firefighters are coming on, new firefighters compared to what we had just 5 years ago. Marin County, for example, has 2 new permanent wildfire attack units that are doing wildfire prevention and then available to go on direct response. We have a brand new hand crew in Sonoma County. We have hundreds of additional firefighters between the Golden Gate Bridge and the Oregon border that have now been hired. So we need to be able to have all sectors covered in the air, on land, and much more work to come. So let's keep going on this. Let's talk about grants, Chief Hess. What financial help is available to individual homeowners? So, Chief Hess, for those CAL FIRE grants, let's just say it's a homeowners association, for example. To be able to work through a homeowners association, you need to work with a qualified nonprofit like a resource conservation district, or you can work with your local fire district to be able to apply for a grant, or you could work with a fire safe council for a grant. The HOA, the homeowner association, can't actually apply, but a qualified nonprofit, resource conservation district, fire safe council, or a government entity can apply. Chief Hess, quickly,
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. The California Climate Investment Grants, the CCI grants, which we have $115 million in CCI funding for 2023. And we also have $142 million in forest health grants, as well as tribal grants, $119 million to tribal. You are correct. When it comes to an individual homeowner or a road association, we would love to meet with these individuals as they reach out to the individual units. So if they're in the Sonoma, Lake, or Napa counties, Solano, they can contact the St. Helena office, our headquarters, and they can have an individual from our resource management side of the house, and they can chat with that individual and help them. Really, like I mentioned earlier, everyone carries a piece to this puzzle. That is an important piece. We need to get them plugged into, whether it's a non-governmental agency, whether it's a fire safe council. And those folks then are going to apply through our grant program to get a piece of that $150 million funding, which has been absolutely crucial for us. There has been, in the Sonoma, Lake, Napa counties, there has been tens of millions of dollars allocated out And once again, it's being done holistically where we're making sure we're not double tapping, double touching things. We're doing this as that three kind of concentric circle piece.
Chief Hess, we're going to stick with the issue of grants. We have, 12, 18 questions about dead and dying trees. Because of the drought, because of previous wildfires, we have literally millions of dead and dying trees on the coastal range in Lake County and all the way up the coast. Are there grants to remove dead and dying trees, Chief Hess?
Yes, there are. Many communities have been successful in getting grants, whether that is a grant to get a curtain burner, which is a very large box essentially that you're able to use a loader and put a large amount of dead and dying fuel into and burn it in a really clean way where there's air infused into it, and you're able to really accelerate the burn pile system that we've had over the years. So there's ways for folks to get a direct award for like a curtain burner, and then there are other opportunities for us to partner with utilizing our hand crews who have partnered with communities, fire safe councils, and they are able to engage on dead and dying trees, fuel reduction, specifically to that dead and dying piece, whether that's chipping and removing it, whether that's chipping and putting it into a vehicle to get it to a regen plant in Stockton. But once again, we would love to circle those folks back to our St. Helena office for those counties, and they can point them in the right direction on the Forest Health Grant or the CCI grants.
All right, Chief Hess, thank you so much from CAL FIRE. We are taking your questions, and we're at about 7:18. We're going to keep going, but we're going to turn the rest of the town hall into a lightning round. So we're going to ask both chiefs 30 seconds as much as possible, because dozens of questions are coming in tonight. Folks are really interested, obviously concerned about wildfire season. We're going to try to get to as many. So let's kick off our lightning round. Let's go to Chief Weber. We're going to ask both chiefs to keep themselves off of mute just so we can go quickly. Lori writes in, please stop telling us to have a go bag. Tell us what to put in it. Chief Weber, 30 seconds. What the hell do we put in a go bag? Go.
All righty. Visit marinready.org, and they will have a whole list of supplies. There are many other websites that do it, so Google it. That's the fastest answer I can give you, and it'll have everything in there you need to know, from medications to pets.
Give us the top 5 to 6 items you should have in a go bag, Chief Weber.
Medications, identification, a reminder note of what you need to get out of your house that's critical, whether it be a picture on a wall or a computer hard drive, and then any passwords that you keep in a notebook or somewhere protected so you have those once you're out.
That's Chief Weber, Marin County Fire. We're going to go to Lori. We're going to stick with Chief Weber. Is the property owner responsible for removing vegetation, in parentheses, weeds, from the edge of the county road, or is it the county's responsibility? Chief Weber.
I wouldn't focus on the fight over responsibility. If you have the resources to be able to get it done, go out there and do it. Most right-of-ways have some level of mowing or spraying, depending on what county you're in, that reduces the weeds along the road. But I think the most important part is we all share this responsibility. If you have the resources and the ability to do it, go out and do it. And if you have a specific question about that roadway, reach out to whoever has ownership, whether it be city, town, or county.
We're going to keep going. We are lightning round mode right now, asking as many questions as possible. We're going to start with Chief Weber on this question. We're going to have Chief Hess step in on this question. John writes in, how are fire prevention projects dealing with hurdles related to CEQA compliance? Is there a plan to fast track some of these environmental compliance issues? Yes. But let's go to Chief Weber first, talking about the local side, and then we'll go to how CAL FIRE is fast tracked on the state side. Chief Weber, local first.
Yeah, absolutely. Most defensible space projects around your home are exempt from the requirements that are outlined there. And so you can do everything we're asking you to do to create defensible space. Most defensible space does not need full-size mature trees removed that are healthy. It really is about the fuels down on the ground, the ladder fuels, those kind of things. As you start to get further away from that house, more environmental compliance can be done or is required. But also remember that if you're doing it in an ecologically sound way, you're following the existing CEQA laws that are out there. But you get further off your property, engage someone that has environmental compliance background.
Thank you so much, Chief Weber. Let's go to Chief Hess, CAL FIRE.
Yes. So real quick, the CEQA piece. In 2019, the governor did give a CEQA, I would say, exemption. It was not a license to kill. However, it alleviated some of the CEQA mandates for the governor's 35 projects that were identified in the 45-day report, hardening 500 of the most vulnerable communities in California. Now, those projects were completed, and CEQA operations was still completed on those projects. Chief Weber said it very well. As you get into a larger shaded fuel break project or some sort of CCI grant that you receive to get into the landscape and actually change the landscape, yes, CEQA is part of that. CAL FIRE has lots of resources, environmental scientists. We have Forester 1s, Forester 2s, Forester 3s that are available to help and are engaged in that CEQA piece, depending on what our partner is, whether it's a state park, whether it's a private land or public land.
Chief Hess, CAL FIRE. We're going to go to Lori writing in from Marin County. Chief, why the hell is bamboo still readily available in stores in Marin County? Same question with all the other plants that are highly flammable. Chief Hess, what do you say to Lori?
Wow. That is one of many plants that are flammable. So I wouldn't necessarily pick on bamboo because of how fast it shoots and grows. Pittosporum is the very similar. We look at vegetation like that. Now there are some kind of on the no-fly list, so to speak. Some of the chaparral, chamois, some of these incredibly volatile fuels, but bamboo, decorative bamboo, needs to remain within that same 75 foot, 50 foot, 25 foot space at the home. You can have that as long as you have maintained your correct clearance. Once again, we're not looking to denude your property down to bare minimum soil. So you can have that material. It is how it's there. It's the continuation of bamboo. And it is how close it is to your structure, and it is how close it is to other flammable material.
Chief Hess, thank you so much. We're going to go to the Marin County Fire Chief. Chief Weber, at your own home, what wouldn't you plant? Would you plant bamboo?
No, sir.
Okay, juniper?
No, sir.
Give us the no plant. If you were to come up with a no plant list, Lori brings up a good point because it's incredibly flammable. Eucalyptus, juniper, bamboo. Keep going, Chief Weber.
So again, some of the key ones you just brought up, right? Things that propagate fire, that are receptive to ember showers, that easily ignite. Bamboo's case, it isn't the nice green stalk of bamboo. It's all that litter it makes. So anything that tends to lend itself to a lot of litter or a lot of dead material. If you ever pry open, any of these evergreen species that you mentioned, like juniper and stuff, there's just a ton of dead and down material. If you can break open a stick or a leaf and it smells like acetone, or that it's got volatile oils in it, those aren't good directly around your house. Now, we live in we want drought tolerant plants. We want plants that are native to the area typically. And those aren't always in alignment with, as Chief Hess, chaparral is a native coastal plant, but it's explosive in a decadent state. And that's okay if it's out towards the coast where there's no houses. Don't have it next to your house. I encourage you, Fire Safe Marin has a plant list that talks about every species. You can print it out and bring it with you when you go to the garden center or your Home Depot or wherever else. Try to stay drought tolerant, try to stay native. And there's a list of plants that are great for that flower at different times that can really make a pretty yard. but it's also spacing within your yard and then getting it out of that 0 to 5 foot area where that litter material can easily ignite your siding and then right up into the attic and the house is gone.
Thank you so much, Chief Weber, Marin County Fire. We are now going to go to Chief Hess. Brandon writes in, what are the environmental effects on dropping flame retardant? I know there's been a lawsuit at the federal level regarding the retardant that is dropped from airplanes. Chief Hess, talk to us a little bit about that. I know that you've researched that, and also know that CAL FIRE is going to continue a status quo approach, but obviously is tracking what's happening with the Forest Service. Chief Hess, on environmental impacts of flame retardant coming from airplanes.
Sure. So we are tracking a lawsuit associated with a type of air retardant. We are not changing our operations associated with that. We are tracking it. I do want to reiterate that for decades, CAL FIRE has been utilizing exclusion zones associated with dropping retardant. So it's not caustic. It's not a material that we're worried about getting on our skin or on the ground. We do have fire through our command and control process, sometimes on federal land where we are partnering with our federal partners, or I've worked in the San Benito Monterey unit where we have the coastal commission with the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary, where we're getting water out of the marine sanctuary. We have that command and control process where an incident commander is able to talk to the air tactical group supervisor and identify an exclusion zone if need be. And I'm talking waterway courses, riparian areas, to be mindful of those areas. And like I said, we're not changing our operational objectives. We're tracking it, but we still have always been utilizing that exclusionary zone associated with large water courses and being mindful of land that may already have some exclusionary zones that have been identified to our air tactical group supervisors.
Thank you so much, Chief Hess. Chief Hess and Chief Weber, Lisa writes in, suggestion, and it's going to sound silly, but here it is. People need to get some goats or sheep. We're losing more than just property damage. We're using valuable water that we need, and I'm very concerned. Look, Lisa brings up a really good point, and I'll be honest, I've had goats all my life. They are some of the best lawnmowers in the business, and they go after poison oak and underbrush, etc. I'll take a goat any day over a damn sheep because they're smarter. That said, Caltrans is now starting to deploy goat herds for roadside clearing. We've seen that in Mendocino County, in Sonoma County, in Marin County. They will be able to chow down on a hillside, cover more territory than what we could do conventionally as well. But Chief Weber, don't take my word for it. As a former goat herder, I want to turn it over to you, Chief Weber, as a professional firefighter. You're starting to see that all throughout the West of utilizing goats in particular. Chief Weber, take it away. You thought you'd never get this question in your career. Too damn bad.
No, I'm excited being a previous pig farmer
Okay,
from the North Coast. So pigs are not as good, but
no,
the goats are a tool.
They're good for breakfast.
We're using them to the point where there's enormous competition to get the goats out. Yes, if you own property of any size, having some goats can really help you keep down those annual grasses and other things. We're using them. They're a great tool in the toolbox. They're not perfect for every project. Just like the fire crew that the senator mentioned that we have is another tool in the toolbox. Masticators. Really, we have to use the right tool for the right project. And they do work well in lighter fuels. They're great. We use them. It's a good question, but it's not the only answer.
Yeah, it's definitely a tool. Chief Hess, 30 seconds. Your opinion on goats?
Yeah, absolutely. Great tool for the toolbox. I had them down the street from my house just 2 weeks ago. We walked by along the railroad tracks, and man, they made the place look like a park. Amazing tool. Go back a few years, I was in Corsica. They use donkeys and goats for their same Mediterranean climate as us. And it was amazing how many they have. I know in California, we were at a shortage of goats. I know a lot of project managers with the CCI grants have been looking for goats, and they are all employed right now on projects. So once again, it's a great tool. They do get into a certain type of species that they could potentially eradicate, like poison oak. They really can get down better than some of our firefighters on their hand crews. And eradicate some of that stuff, as well as there's some other environmental benefits of them. Even on, I was on a grade project when I was a crew captain in the San Bruno Mountain, and there were goats, and they specifically brought the goats in because of an environmental piece. They needed them to actually push a certain butterfly flower or plant so that could propagate to bring the butterflies back. So it was a two-prong approach to bring the goats in. So once again, goats are great, but to my partner's point, if it's the right project.
Two things from that. We got a new bumper sticker. Goats are great. I agree. And if you need a side business, and I'm not joking here, and please, chiefs, push back on me. It could be a lucrative business to be able, because they're really, no joke, there is a shortage of goats in California because of the extreme need with wildfire mitigation. So it really, there is a need for folks to get into that business. And the state works with herders up and down, especially the coastal counties. Hey, I want to get to our next question. This is coming in from Sonia. SB 35, it was a housing bill that I didn't support, as codified in SB 423 as written, allows by right housing in the WUI. She continues, and we love Sonia, about her deep concern about having high density development within the WUI, the wild and urban interface, more high fire hazard zones. Look, I'll give you my opinion. We had Senate Bill 12 last year. Senate Bill 12 sailed out of the Senate. It would have put very distinct guardrails on development of multifamily units within the most extreme high fire hazard zones. I don't think we should be building hundreds of apartments or condominiums in the most extreme high fire zones any longer in California. We know that they're just going to burn. I'm being really candid about that. We need rules and guardrails on this to be able to protect Californians. I'll also be candid. The building industry spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to defeat that bill. I think that we should be hitting our affordable housing targets. I think we should be hitting our housing targets by infill. And that's going to be really critical. But these large hundreds of units development in the high fire hazard zones, I really do think that the state needs to start putting guardrails on that. Chief Weber, Chief Hess, your thoughts on this? Again, I really do think we have a housing crisis. We desperately need additional workforce housing, but these large condominium projects in the most high fired zones, we should probably start rethinking that. But Chief Hess, Chief Weber, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. So I've been chatting a lot about this because we get a lot of questions. The fire safe regulations that were birthed in the aftermath of the most devastating fires in the history of California, with 88 people dying in the Camp Fire. As a society, if you go back a little ways in society, we decided that it's probably not a good idea to build homes in the floodplain.
Amen.
The homes were there, it's flooded, and over the years, we got smart as a society, said, you know what, it's probably not a good idea to build there. Fast forward, earthquake, fault lines. We decided as a society, the legislature, and they've got building codes and things associated with fault lines. Well, I'm here to tell you, I'm with you, Senator. All of a sudden, we find ourselves we are now on the era of the mega fire. And we're talking about what you can and can't potentially build in the wildland urban interface. In the genesis of this was to save lives. So the Board of Forestry was tasked by the legislature through pressure from the insurance company, the public, and the Board of Forestry created the fire safe regulations that were birthed through the Public Resource Code now. So CAL FIRE is tasked to decide whether or not a project or a road meets the intent of the fire safe regulation, and if it's consistent with the fire safe regulation. We have partnered with our counties to where there's a planning department and the local authorities on that particular piece. That those folks have the ability to decide whether or not that is going to be built. However, it does have to have a fire safe regulation piece associated with that. So I agree with you, Senator. We are here, and as a society, we have decided that this is a good idea, and it's in the Public Resources Code.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the items the state of California has actually approached FEMA on. FEMA in these floodplain communities have literally bought out homeowners, leveled the home because, again, year after year after year, utilizing federal flood insurance, and it's never going to stop. I think eventually we're going to get to that point with FEMA where we're going to be looking at where there have been extreme fires, whether it's once or twice a decade, and eventually preserving that land so that we do not have those homes. And we do need enhanced regulation. We're going to continue to work on that. I'm going to go, though, because of time. We are getting so many questions. We are so grateful that we still have over 1,000 folks who are tuning in. Mercedes just told me. So we're going to get to as many questions as possible. We want to give you the email right now, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov, senator.mcguire@senate.ca.gov. We're going to keep coming with your questions. We are in a lightning round with Chief Weber from Marin County, Chief Hess, who runs Northern California for CAL FIRE. This is specific for Chief Weber. Brenda writes in, what progress is being made on the fire break that extends from Mill Valley to Fairfax? And she says, thank you for this excellent evening. Chief Weber, take it away.
Alrighty, thank you for the great question, Brenda. So the state of California, CAL FIRE, we've been successful in acquiring grant funds. As you know, a Marin resident, we passed Measure C, which also contributed funding for this project. So we are well on our way, probably 30 to 40% completed of that fuels project. And that, for those that aren't familiar with the area, that borders the toe of Mount Tamalpais. It's one of our greatest risks. Runs the fuel vegetation modification runs behind all of these communities. But again, we couldn't do this work without the funding we got from CAL FIRE through the grants that Chief Hess talked about. And then, of course, the passage of Measure C, the support of Senator McGuire and increasing our fire crews that are doing a lot of this work that's out there. That combination has allowed us to do it. We're making great progress on it. So thanks for the question and the highlight.
We have some of the best with us here tonight. Chief Weber from Marin County, Chief Hess, who runs Northern California for CAL FIRE. Let's stick with it. I want to get a local and a statewide perspective on Carolyn's question. Carolyn says, I'm a deaf person and a wildfire victim. We are of several deaf family members who were the last ones to be evacuated during the Tubbs fire. Fire was 10 feet away from our home when they found us still sleeping. Technology we received from the county was challenging. Talk to us, Chief Weber, Chief Hess, about how those who are deaf or hard of hearing are receiving those alerts to evacuate. Let's start with Chief Weber, local perspective. We're going to go Marin County, but the rest for locals. And then let's go to Chief Hess as well, CAL FIRE. Chief Weber, kick us off.
I think the Tubbs fire was unfortunately an opportunity to learn a lot of lessons about alert and warning systems. Sonoma County has made significant and major investments in their Office of Emergency Management. They are leading the charge across the state in alert and warning systems. There's things like the NOAA radios that have the ability to have a flashing strobe or some kind of other learning device besides just an audible piece. And there are other products that are out there. This is what I'm referring to by it's going to take a team. It's going to take the whole village to make this successful. We need input from individuals like you, our access and functional needs community. We need to understand where our blind spots are and make sure that we're working with technology companies to invest in things that especially for our seniors that are hard of hearing or other people that are deaf. These are critically important for our success. And this was my reference to, when you look at the fatalities, that the age group and those who are affected, they're our most vulnerable members of our community. We're working with folks out of Silicon Valley on technologies that, integrate smoke alarm systems in a house that most often have some component of flashing light or strobe. But this also highlights when all of these things fail, knowing your neighbor is the single most important thing. If you can get that from tonight, make sure you're knocking on those doors. Make sure when you leave and you've been woken up that your neighbors are awake. We all owe it to each other to do that. It's the old-fashioned way, but it works.
Chief Weber, County of Marin, let's go to Chief Hess. Chief Hess, I'm going to ask you to keep this to 30 seconds. We're trying to get as many questions as possible. For an individual who may be deaf or hard of hearing, how are those residents being warned?
Yeah, so I said it a couple times earlier, the early evacuation piece and the early and more often is key. However, there are local emergency offices that are identifying vulnerable communities, not just someone who is hard of hearing, deaf, someone who has maybe a large has a livestock. So there are resources for these folks through their local emergency management offices that they may not be aware of, that they could be identified. But to my partner's point, I cannot reiterate enough, early evacuation and more often is the key. So that's understanding your neighbor, that's having a family member, and it's being as self-sufficient as you possibly can. But I would point that person to the local emergency management office for some additional local resources for them.
100%. Thank you so much. We received actually about 8 or 9 questions about potential development at the Sonoma Development Center. If you are not familiar with the Sonoma Developmental Center, it's a former state institution that was the home to literally thousands of California residents with developmental disabilities. That Sonoma Developmental Center has now been closed, and now it will be repurposed with housing and some potential economic development on the site. Folks who are prior to any development, there will be a coverage review, my term, of the type of fire coverage that will be needed long-term on any new development that will be taking place on the site. Chief Hess, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that is obviously something that's important to the County of Sonoma. That's something that's important to the state of California. But Chief Hess, I'll turn over to you if there are any other items that you'd like to be able to add.
No, thank you. I just want to reiterate, Sonoma County has been a phenomenal partner for CAL FIRE. We have signed the long-term lease with them for this. And so just to your point, for us to be able to house folks there, our firefighter troops, it has just been, they've just been a great partner for us. I think what you said is I would reiterate.
And I promise you, those who are tuning in that are familiar with the Sonoma Developmental Center proposal, there's a lot more work to come on that, both on the county side and the state side. And we look forward to having that conversation. Chief Weber, you grew up in the Sonoma Valley. Anything that you want to talk about on that issue? And we'll go to our next question. 30 seconds, Chief Weber.
Yeah, and these concerns are not germane to Sonoma Valley. I'm hearing the same things here in Marin County when we talk about any development. Remember, any new development will be built to the WUI code. We really want to start creating communities that are fire adapted, and to the point where, although if you weren't able to evacuate your home and you would survive in that area, Arnold Drive and Highway 12, both thoroughfares going in both directions, gives, considerable opportunity for evacuation. If it, again, growing up, born and raised in Sonoma, I would feel very comfortable if I was in that community with the additional housing stock and being able to evacuate. And it speaks to what Chief Hess was talking about, which is early notifications, making sure you have signed up for your alert and warning system and you have a plan. and you've got defensible space around your own house. Those are the critical components. We're going to have to add more housing stock for our workforce and others, as the senator and chief discussed.
Thank you so much, Chief Weber. We're still over 800 strong. We're going to get to a few more questions, and thank you for hanging with us tonight. I want to say how much we appreciate this ongoing dialogue. We're going to keep it to 30 seconds, if it's all right, Chiefs, on this. Motion writes in, continuity concerns, power and internet service related. You're damn right, Motion. That is a huge concern for us. We have spent the greater part of the last 7 years focused on ensuring that we have reliable cell and internet coverage. We advanced legislation that's now been enacted into law, ratified by the Public Utilities Commission, that mandates 72-hour backup power on critical cell infrastructure, cell towers across this state, so that we never run into a situation that we had during the Tubbs fire or what we saw during the public power shutoffs in Marin County, where you completely lose cell coverage. These damn things are our lifeline. They're our lifeline for emergency alerts, for social media, be able to call out to 911. And we need to make sure that we have continuous power. So what now the state has mandated is these 72-hour backup generators on both cable infrastructure and cell infrastructure. Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, Comcast, Cox, et cetera, all now have to have 72-hour backup power, because we cannot let the lesson learned in the Tubbs fire ever escape us. That is why you're going to see that. That's why you've seen that implemented by the state of California. Chief Weber, you've lived this. I'll turn it over to you. It's really a lesson learned and a promise kept that we have this new law. Chief Weber.
Yeah, and thank you for your continued leadership in this arena, both on the communications, alert and warning side, as well as the piece of getting us the resources we need from the fire agencies. But you're right, we've become completely reliant on cell phones, and we need to have a backup plan. So like anything else, I talked about the old school technology. Most agencies in California and in your counties, cities have adopted a high-low siren. So if you hear that coming from a fire truck or a police car, that is an evacuation signal. Some communities have adapted and adopted some kind of siren mechanism, whether that be an acoustical device or an old school air raid siren. And then, the knock on the neighbor's door is also works. Organize your neighborhoods. These Firewise groups, when you start to meet your neighbor and you get together and you talk about your mutual concerns around fire safety, you're starting to build that network that we need that's beyond technology. Those are all really important pieces. The last one, the NOAA radio system, it's certainly been implemented in Sonoma County and Marin. I can't specifically speak to Mendocino and Del Norte, but these allow for an alert and warning system over a radio frequency. They're battery backed up. They can be used also as a last resort. So there are options out there. Become familiar with them. Some of them are low or no cost as well.
Chief Weber, thank you so much. Chief, we're going to stick with you. 30 seconds or less, please. Kathleen writes in, are there resources for hardening wood decks attached to the house? So what do you do to help fireproof your wood deck? Chief Weber.
There are some products on the market that have some fire retardant capabilities. They're not great, and they don't work well. You have a wood deck. It presents a challenge, and basic maintenance, clearing leaves and debris is an important piece. And then as you can afford it, being able to change that out to a non-combustible material is an ideal situation. But, an old redwood deck is a challenge.
100%. Vivian writes in, she does not agree with me on housing at the Sonoma Developmental Center. She says that the Sonoma Developmental Center should not be building 600 new homes with 900 jobs, et cetera, in pristine high fire zones. So Vivian, thank you. I want to make sure that we got your comment because I know you have concerns with that and really do appreciate you sharing your thoughts. And again, a lot more conversation on the Sonoma Developmental Center as we move forward. Janice writes in, have there been any progress on improving the evacuation route from Oakmont in Santa Rosa? Yes, Janice. In fact, We had a town hall out in Oakmont, gosh, about a month and a half ago, where we brought out Santa Rosa Fire Chief. We had Chief Marcucci, who is in charge of the Lake Sonoma unit from CAL FIRE, talking about the expanded partnership between Santa Rosa Fire, Santa Rosa Police, California Highway Patrol, and CAL FIRE on evacuation routes in coordination on that. Yes, there has been, in addition, road of last resort, a fire road has been cleared in back of Oakmont. But I'll be honest, that fire road is mostly going to be used to bring in fire equipment and not do evacuation, so that we have an alternative route to be able to protect Oakmont, several thousand homes there along Highway 12. Chief Hess, any comment that you have on that?
No, you just spurred a point of interest. So we have even identified areas where, and I think I may have mentioned this last year, where we've used the term temporary refuge area, and that used to be a firefighting term. Over the last few years, we're now looking at a temporary refuge area, even now for the public, because of the era of the mega fires and how explosive some of these significant wind-driven fires have been. So part of these areas is us identifying, in the last resort, is there an area where we can have a temporary refuge area identified, which, once again, it's last resort. It goes back to early evacuation, early notification, because we want this on our terms. We've done some evacuation drills with communities within the Bay Area where we thought that it was going to be maybe a 4 or 8 hour evacuation for certain groups. And it has turned out to be almost double that. So it really keeps pointing back to us to earlier the better on evacuations and more often.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about Maria. Maria's question coming in. Look, this is a silent crisis across the state. We have had, 36 questions this evening, and I'm sorry that we couldn't get to them, about insurance rates in wildfire zones. Look, I'm going to be really honest. This crisis is a threat to California's number one nest egg, our personal home. That is the number one nest egg for the vast majority of Californians. And insurance carrier after insurance carrier are non-renewing insurance policies up and down the state. In Northern California now, more in Southern California. And look, we're going to need wholesale reform of the insurance system. We had legislation about 4 years ago that would establish a home hardening commission, that would have established new community hardening standards, very similar to what Florida did for wind after hurricanes in the 90s. We would have established new home hardening standards because of the wildfires here in California. The building industry spent, again, hundreds of thousands of dollars along with the insurance industry to defeat the bill. We got out of the Senate. It died in the Assembly. Ultimately, here's where I think we need to go. We need to be able to develop new community hardening standards. If a community advances home hardening standards, then insurance companies has to write. It worked in other states that have been impacted by high winds due to hurricanes. We know that it could work here if it is expert driven by fire marshals, fire chiefs, building inspectors, along with planning directors. We know that it could work here in California, but politics gets in the way. Ultimately, Maria, I think we're going to need to put a ballot initiative forward for Californians to vote on, just as we did for automobile insurance rates with Prop 103, where California voters overwhelmingly allowed the insurance commissioner to set automobile insurance rates versus insurance companies who are gouging consumers year after year after year. More to come on that. I think it's a massive crisis across the state. Chief Hess, Chief Weber, anything that you want to say on this issue quickly, Chief Hess?
Yeah, I've done some town hall meetings with with Commissioner Lara from the Insurance Commission from the state of California. And once again, we have, on the CAL FIRE side, I'm not going to speak to any type of political initiative with that, but once again, we just support the fire safe regulations that we are having to apply new building codes and standards associated with them.
100%. Thank you so much. Chief Weber, I have a couple of Marin-specific questions for you. Are you ready to go, Chief Weber?
Yes, sir.
All right. Greg writes in, I'd like to hear about actions to reduce fuel loading related fire dangers within China Camp State Park and surrounding open space. Chief Weber, if you want to hit that, if possible.
So I feel like I'm thanking the state a lot tonight. We just received word we were successful in getting a grant from CAL FIRE. Obviously, the state legislator provided the funding. That work is specific to China Camp and that the arena, the homes around there. So we have more funding coming. We've actually made some pretty significant investments with Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority funding over the last few years. But we're just awarded, and I think it was a $1.4 million grant for that area around China Camp.
Thank you so much. Next question is from Amit. My house is in San Rafael. It's within a fire zone. Please provide guidance on how homeowners can get insurance and how to better reduce fire danger. This is coming in from Amit from San Rafael.
And for all the listeners, we want resources available. So if you go to Fire Safe Marin, doesn't matter what county you live in, we have a resource page for wildfire insurance. It'll walk you through steps, but I encourage you, fight that decision for a non-renewal or that you can't get it. Shop around. And then we, the fire agencies, want to be a resource for you. We'll do an inspection. If you're compliant with the public resource code for defensible space and other things, we can send a letter that you can turn into your insurance company, because remember, they're looking at this as a vast area, not maybe specific to your property. The last resort is the California Fair Plan, but it's considerably more expensive. So visit firesafemarin.org, wildfire insurance. There's a whole slew of information, and this is good for anybody in the Senator's District, not just Marin County.
Thank you so much. We are going to take the final three questions. Mike writes in, Mike, have you ever had a real job in the private sector? Thanks so much, Mike. Yes, Mike, I have. Mike, I put myself through college. I started out 7 years working for a radio station group. I then worked another 7 years for a local television station group. And I encourage you, Mike, to come follow me for a day and try to keep up with me in this real job of representing 1 million people in Northern California. And we'll see who could keep up. But Mike, thanks for the smart ass comment. Want to go to our next, and this is coming in from Barbara. Barbara writes in from Fairfax. Please consider CEQA exemptions for wildfire preparedness and prevention work. This is coming in from Vice Mayor Kohler from Fairfax. Chief Weber.
All righty. Again, I think that, we're working with the legislator on where we can make adjustments to CEQA law that makes sense, both from an environmental perspective, as well as our ability to get work done without any significant obstructions or delays. We're seeing a lot of progress there. And I think we're all getting a better understanding of how to work with the CEQA law as it pertains, but we are working with the legislator on opportunities to make adjustments that make sense.
Thank you so much. Let's go to a really serious question here as well to the vice mayors. And this is coming in from Cecile. What are the current plans for resources for the evacuation of pets and livestock? Let's start with Chief Weber on the local side, and we'll go to Chief Hess. Then we'll go to our last question after this. Chief Weber for pets and livestock, and then we'll go to Chief Hess.
So we're working with humane societies in all of these counties. One of them is that preparation piece we talked so much about. We focus on people. You need to be equally focused on your pets that you love to make sure they have an evacuation plan. You have that go bag with food or medications that your animal may take. The second piece is we've got ag passes that we're implementing across the state for incidents that allow, under the right circumstances, of course, but our agricultural partners that are out there, livestock, et cetera, into the fire zone to make sure they can feed, water, and care for their animals during these incidents. So most, especially our more rural counties to the north, we're working with local associations, the horse, livestock, et cetera, to make sure that we're not an obstacle to your livelihood And that ag pass is just one piece of that.
Thank you so much, Chief Weber. Chief Hess,
Yes.
on evacuation of livestock and pets.
Absolutely. So large animal rescue is incredibly important. Chief Weber said it very well. I would point people towards the county emergency management for additional resources. There are multiple counties that we are partnering with. The ag passes are absolutely crucial. They were essentially birthed in the 2020 SCU Lightning Complex, where we had very large amount of ag folks needing to make access into the western edge of the SCU Lightning Complex outside of the city of San Jose. It's really amazing to see that has now gone in kind of statewide, and now we have this ag pass issue, because, Senator, one of the issues is once people leave, how do they get back in and care for their large animals? How do they rescue their large animals? So those county emergency management folks do have resources specifically for large animal rescue, but the ag pass, which I would highly recommend people to also getting some information on their ag pass through the same county resource, is now we're able to kind of partner with them and the law enforcement who are in charge of evacuations. And now we have this mechanism for people to come in, because what's important to them is important to us. And so if we can safely get them out, then that is absolutely on one of our top priorities.
Chief Hess runs CAL FIRE for Northern California. We're going to go to closing comments from our two chiefs in just a moment. I do want to hit, we've had several questions about undergrounding PG&E power lines. Look, I'm going to be really honest, and I'm going to be candid. I have great frustration with Pacific Gas and Electric. I have amazing respect for the women and men who keep our lights on each and every day. I do not trust the leadership of that corporation. I think they have put profit in front of people year after year after year. And it shouldn't have to take the state to mandate that they underground their most high fire threat lines. We passed legislation last year that is making PG&E underground 10,000 miles of their most high fire threat power lines. There are three major reasons, check my facts on this, for large wildland fires in this state. Lightning, vehicles, and PG&E. And we have to make sure that we get these lines undergrounded. And by the way, in a rate case that's in front of the Public Utilities Commission, if PG&E continues with their standard vegetation management and line hardening over the next 10 years, it's going to cost consumers an additional $30 per month. If we get these 10,000 miles of lines underground, it's going to cost approximately $16.30 per month, nearly half of what it would cost to maintain a status quo approach. We got to get these lines underground. That is a major priority for this state. We are now starting to see PG&E move on it. Less than 1% of PG&E's power lines have been undergrounded by the utility. It's simply unacceptable. All right, I want to turn it over to our chiefs. Chiefs, you have been amazing with your time, incredibly generous. I want to turn it over to each of you to be able to give us some closing comments, and I'd like to provide some thank yous. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Weber, closing comments. Chief, I just want to tell you how grateful I am for your leadership. You are truly one of the best in the fire service. You serve Marin County well, but you care about Northern California. Chief Weber, thank you for your partnership. Take it away with closing comments.
Alrighty, I'll stay with the theme of gratitude and thank you, Senator, for your leadership. We wouldn't have the tools in the toolbox that we need to do our job as firefighters if it wasn't for the work you were doing for all of us and your district up in Sacramento. So thank you. Chief Hess, CAL FIRE, one of the best fire agencies in the world. It's expanded significantly. You guys are doing great work. We appreciate the partnership from the local government perspective. And then in closing, I think most importantly, the respect and thanks to all of you that took time out of your busy lives tonight, missed the first piece of the Warriors game to be with us this evening. But the fact that you're here, you care, you're engaged, it makes everything we do worthwhile. Share a little bit of information with your neighbors. Make sure you know your neighbors. And thank you for all your work in the fire prevention arena.
Thank you so much, Chief Weber, and go Warriors. Appreciate that. Chief Hess, I just want to take a moment to say thank you for CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE has been there for us year in and year out. You run into situations where all of us are evacuating. You fight tooth and nail to be able to save communities. I have deep, deep respect for the women and men who are the heart of CAL FIRE. We need to continue to fix the CAL FIRE firefighter shortage, but I just want to acknowledge Chief Hess in all the ranks of CAL FIRE. They really are the gold standard of America's firefighting force. Chief Hess, take it away for closing comments.
Thank you, Senator, and my partner, Chief Weber. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat and spend some time with you. Look, I would argue having our director who came from the ranks of firefighter, it's amazing to have his leadership right now for the men and women of CAL FIRE. We have seen that over the last year of just how much he cares, his priorities. It has truly been amazing with the executive leadership team that he has built. I would argue that collectively, we are all stronger. And when I say we, Senator, I mean you, your constituents, the men and women of the fire service, law enforcement. I would argue that we are stronger for what we've endured together over the last few years. And I'm talking from 2017 to now, absolutely devastating fires. And I want to reiterate that, and I understand people are tired, the men and women of the fire service are tired, but we are here to serve. We're not going anywhere. We absolutely are thankful for the resources that you've been able to fight for us for this summer. And I will close with this. We're not going to engineer our way out of this situation in 1 year or 2 years. We live in this Mediterranean climate. There isn't a magic bullet to engineer our way out of it. Chief Weber said it very well early on. You need to have your neighbors. We need to be relying and protecting each other. We need to be making sure you have each other's phone number and really looking out for each other. Because collectively, it's going to take all of us, all of our disciplines to really tackle this wildfire crisis that we're in. So I really thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you tonight, and always look forward to it in the future.
Chief Hess, it's so wonderful to see you. Give our best to the director. And I want to say thank you to the over 1,000 folks who tuned in from all across Northern California, in big cities and small, from Trinity County down to Sausalito, up to Crescent City and Elk and Mendocino County. We are so grateful that you would take time out of your busy schedule. First and foremost, there is no other region in this state that has been hit as hard from wildfire as the North Bay and North Coast, year after year after year. And I want to say thank you for your persistence. Thank you for being so generous with neighbors in need. And I promise you, we're going to continue to invest year in and year out on getting upstream investments on wildfire prevention and continuing to expand the ranks of CAL FIRE, continuing to partner with local firefighter agencies to be able to modernize facilities and purchase new equipment and get additional personnel on the ground. We will not rest. I give you my word. It is one of our top priorities day in and day out to make our regions, to make our communities and neighborhoods more fire safe. We couldn't have done tonight without several folks. I want to say thank you to Brooke and Nora and Mercedes and John. John Roman got us out of a little bit of a technical squeeze here earlier. I just want to say thank you so much, Mr. Roman. I want to say thank you to Lyles, Summer, and Rebecca for all of the work that went into tonight. The Warriors are currently winning and beating the Lakers 56-53, almost at halftime. It's not like we're tracking, I promise you, but 56-53, almost at halftime. Thanks for tuning in. Really grateful. And I promise you, we're going to keep you updated as wildfire season approaches. Last time, Chief Hess, Chief Weber, give out the websites where folks can go to get wildfire prepared. Chief Hess, wildfire preparedness, where should folks go?
That would be readyforwildfire.org.
Chief Weber.
Alrighty, and on a local level, and I encourage you all to visit firesafemarin.org. Also, we have a couple events coming up, one in Sonoma County, Living with Fire and Forest Resilience in June, and then Fire Stomp in Marin on May 20th. So great opportunities to continue to learn.
Thank you for this amazing privilege of working for you each and every day. Thank you for allowing me to represent Northern California. A lot more work to come together. Have a great night. Thank you so much, everybody.